We're talking today about developing your plan for financial expansion. And good, I think we are live everywhere. If you are joining live today, pop me a comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know what your vision is for that financial expansion. And Halen, I'm having fun, expanding the She Sells brand to really be about sales and money mentoring, specifically for women, but we got a mixed audience here. And I love that. And I think we can all benefit from that too. And so again, we're talking today about developing your financial plan for expansion. And I think the first and the most important thing, hey, Charity, good morning, good afternoon, happy Monday. That's what I meant. I think the most important thing is to, first and foremost, before we get into any of the 5 tips, to know that you deserve to expand, that if it is a desire on your heart, that you deserve it and that you're worthy of it. And coming from that place of worthiness and coming from that place of deservedness around it is really the foundation that I want you to layer any of these tips on. It's so important. And so from that, because again, we only get what we feel worthy of, from that place of worthiness, there's these 5 things that I have found in my own life have really worked to help me expand financially. And you can take all 5 of these, you can take one of them, but I would encourage you, start this week off strong by incorporating at least one of them. And I think the first thing is to stay connected to your vision. If you want to expand, and when I talk about expand, really for me, it's about living in the overflow. It's about living in the overflow in all areas, not just with money, with time, with resources, with opportunities. And it's something that I continuously remind myself of when I get caught up in the natter, right? Like we all do. Yes, Lynn, exactly. Like the natter of the stories we tell ourselves. I don't have enough time. I don't have this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that's an old story that I have consciously decided to release. I'm not saying it doesn't still come up sometimes, but I know what it is when it does. And that I would invite you to release as well and really decide that you're only available to live in the overflow, because that's the place where we are most creative. That's the place where we're most present. And from that place of living in the overflow, coming back to this first point here is staying connected to the vision. When we stay connected to the vision, it helps us live in the overflow. When we get too caught up in making money, the end goal in and of itself, it actually dilutes its power. So money is the how of your vision. And if it's been a while since you've connected with your vision, well, this is the invitation for you, right? Is to get really reconnected to that vision and what it is that you're creating. And money itself is not the vision. And this is where I found in a lot of my sales background and a lot of the corporate background that I had, my thinking for so long was like money was the vision, because so much of the conversation was around how much money are you bringing in this month? And it's not to say that's wrong. Like that is important. A company needs money to grow, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're Fortune 100, I don't care. The company needs money to grow. But when we make money itself the vision, we actually dilute the power of what we're creating. So it gets kind of murky. So the first step again is reconnect to your vision. What is the specific vision? And it can be, I always play with longer term vision, but I also know when you play in the realm that we play in here in the She Sells community, which is about the quantum leap, timelines get kind of funky, right? We know how to bend time and space when we use the principles of quantum physics, when we use alignment as a tool, right? And so with timeline of things, I'm typically playing in a 90 days to a year timeline, because I've got a bigger vision, but it may, who knows how long it's going to take. Oftentimes these things take less time than we think they're going to when we really get in alignment and we leverage these tools like I just mentioned. So with whatever that vision is for the next 90 days, 6 months, for the rest of this year, whatever it is, what is the dollar amount required to fulfill that vision and chunk it down. So if you want a fast way to get out of overwhelm, right? Like part of my vision is to open a sanctuary, and this sanctuary is going to help. I'm going to co-lead it, co-facilitate it with my husband once he gets out of medical school. It's going to help people with addiction recovery. There's going to be animals there. There's going to be, the medical component that he's going to be doing there. That's a chunk, right? Like that, if I really got into the details of that right now, it could easily feel overwhelming. And one of the other decisions that I've made in my life is like, I'm not available for overwhelm. That's not an empowering emotion to be in. So chunking that down, and that's, to be transparent, that's not even something I'm really working on right now. I'm just using it as an example, but like taking that big picture goal and chunking it down to say, what's at hand this year? Then what's at hand this month? Then what's for the monthly goal to be created? What's going to need to happen this week, etc. Chunk it down. And you can chunk it down financially too for your very present financial desires. I know so many of the members of this community, and you're in the up level, right? And when we're in the up level, that means stretching financially sometimes, right? And I know some of you, and it's like you've stretched financially. You've invested in yourself with coaching. You may have invested in a new wardrobe piece. You may have invested in some real estate, this or that, right? And sometimes it's literally looking at what's the next up thing on the list. It can be what's the next up payment that I need to make, what's the next up investment I desire to make, how much is that? And then, okay, like I know that's what's next. So we can get ourselves, and let me know in the comments if you're here live, does that resonate? Do you do this? Oh, thank you, Michelle. I just read your comment. Yeah, I'm so excited about it. But do you do this? Like, I literally on my computer, y'all may think I'm a little nuts about this, but this is what I do. On my computer, I have a list of next up financial desires, and it's this for this, like this amount for this desire by this date, then this amount for this desire by this date. And it's just boom, 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 very laid out, very chunked down, because I'm in my family, I'm the sole income earner right now. And that's a conscious choice we both made. And there's both business investments that need to be made, and there's also personal investments. And so on that list, it's all of it chunked down. And it helps me stay focused on like, this is what's coming next. That's what's coming next. And then I'm going to share with you my second tip to actually do something about those things coming next. But that's how to do it, is just chunk it down, make it simple. Your second step to develop your financial plan for expansion is, once you've got your list and your chunked down list of what's the amount that you desire to bring in right now, and it's very tied to the vision that you're creating, what's the most enjoyable way for that money to come in? What would be the most enjoyable way for that money to come in? Now, this is when I'm working specifically with women, and again, our outward brand is She Sells. We work with women. I work with men behind the scenes too. But when I'm working with women, I find this especially is very powerful, because as women, we thrive in pleasure. We thrive in fun. We thrive in play and joy. And check in. When is the last time you really gave yourself permission to show up that way and to actually make money in that energy, right? But you actually make more money when we're in that energy of joy and fun and pleasure. But I love looking at, this is the amount that is needed to fulfill this particular purpose and this desire. What would be the most enjoyable way to bring it in? Now, if you're an entrepreneur, sometimes that's a little bit easier to do, right? Maybe it's like in our world, I've got private coaching, I've got group programs, we've got 50K club, 10K club, and I can kind of feel into, based on the amount that's required for the thing that I want to do next, for the vision, to fulfill the vision, what would be the most enjoyable way to do that? Sometimes it's like I'm on a private intensive role, and I'm like, I would love to book like 2 or 3 private intensives, and then boom, that's what I do. I say, okay, we're going to shift our marketing for that. I'm going to go out and do some outreach about that. Other times there's a group program coming up, right? Thank you so much for the heart. Like, we're just about to start our re-enrollment of the 50K club. And so it's like, okay, maybe that's the thing that feels more enjoyable right now. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but I'm just giving examples. If you're in sales and you're working within another company, I think this still works. I think you can still look at, there's, in theory, you probably have multiple products you can sell, multiple things you can do, or multiple types of clients you can work with. What would be the most enjoyable type of client for me to work with here? What's the low hanging fruit? What feels easy? Again, what feels easy? This is a powerful question. If we think we got to push the rock up the hill and it's like that uphill battle, you're making it way harder than it needs to be. And that's not the quantum leap energy that's going to create your next level. Hey, Christina. So it's thinking about it like that. What feels enjoyable, what feels easy, and chunking it down. Lynn, oh, thank you. You're saying, great question. What's the most enjoyable way for the money to come in? Exactly. The third step here to create your plan for financial expansion, I like to think about getting creative. So we get so caught up in our way of thinking, right? Like, I've always made money this certain way. So if I want to make more, it's just going to have to happen this way. Well, if you keep thinking that way, then guess what? That will be how it has to happen. And you're kind of boxing yourself in. So I would play with if so and so wanted to create financial expansion this month and wanted to bring in X amount, how would they do it? And just have fun with it, right? It could be a mentor, it could be somebody else in your space, it could be a coworker at your company, maybe like the top performer at your company. It could be Oprah, right? That's probably going to be a distant stretch. That's not really going to give you useful information. But literally, like playing with, if someone else was going to do this, and this is a true principle of the quantum leap, is we almost turn everything we've been doing on its head and look for what's the most efficient, what's the most effective path to get to our end goal. So if someone else was going to do this, what would that look like and how would they approach it? So play with that. The fourth step to financial expansion, I want you to start spending time with your money every day. Be in community with your money. It's literally like any other relationship, right? Like I'll give you an example. My husband, Jason, and I, when we had our son, Jack, it went from being two of us in the house with like all the time in the world to hang out whenever we want and do, Sunday happy hour and all of that, and like spending all the time together, to literally there was a period where it was like two ships passing in the night. And I will be so real with you here. And maybe you can relate to that. I don't know, but we did go through that period. And it dawned on me, I was like, well, of course it feels like that. Of course there feels like a disconnect because we're not investing time. Like we've got date night, but that's once a week and that's great. And once a week, spending a couple hours with each other is not necessarily going to grow a relationship to the extent that I want to grow it. And so putting in place every morning connection time has been huge. And it's the same with your money. If you want to grow your relationship with your money, if you want to feel that energy of money is there and it's supporting you, and it's that intimate communion and relationship with money, you got to spend time with it. So for me, every morning, that's one of the first things I do. Not first things. I do my morning routine. I meditate. I work out. I spend time with my husband. We do family time. But then from there, as I move into more of the business planning mode for the day, first thing I do, I spend time with money and I look at all of it. So checking account, savings account, credit cards, all of it. Because I want to know, I want to know where I'm at with it. And I want to build that relationship. And it's only from that place that we can set next level goals and we can set our real plan for expansion. And then from there, my husband and I, we have we call it a money love meeting, because when you don't call it that, it can feel like a money not love meeting, a money fight meeting. I think that's a Kate Northrup original idea, which I love, is like the money love meeting. And so we spend time on it together there, and we talk about what are we building and where are we going, and are there investments I need to make for my business coming up? Are there things we need to do for his school coming up? And we plan. And it's never in the energy of lack or limitation. I've really learned to get out of that in all areas in my life. By the way, for everyone who's joining live, Laura, Vanessa, Rita, so good to see you. So it's never that energy. It's always the energy of what's our vision? How much is required to fulfill that vision? And then great, like what's the plan to create it? And sometimes if it feels within the realm of what we can do right now, it's like it's very clear. We're going to pull this money from here. We're going to do this investment on a credit card, whatever it is. Sometimes the vision needs to kind of percolate for a little bit. So, for example, my husband, we need a new car for him, where we need a tow behind car for the RV. But we're not really clear what that's going to be yet. And so it's kind of just in the percolation phase. We're not like stretching it, pushing it. We're not feeling like we got to do anything right away with it, but it's like we feel that's coming, and we can start to kind of plan for that and say, well, roughly what's that going to be and what's it going to look like, yada, yada. But so working together on that, and we have visible goals for every part of our financial life. So we've got goals for savings, we've got goals for our investments, we've got goals for lifestyle too. And those are very visible. And this is where, again, you may think I'm a big nerd about this, but in my project management software, I literally manage our financial goals. And it's like, this is the amount that we desire to be in this savings account by this date. This is the amount that we desire to have saved up for a car by this date, etc. And we give ourselves permission too to make our own rules. So sometimes the time of our lives is more about saving for whatever reason. Sometimes the time is more about investing, and sometimes it's about lifestyle, right? Like we've made a conscious choice when we felt so clear that we wanted to buy an RV for our family. We made a conscious choice to pull that money from some savings we had. And at the time when I was building up the savings, it was like, that was really the desire, was to have a certain amount in that account. And when I'm actually going to do a podcast on this coming up soon, when we act like money is finite, when we act like we have the money but we can't use it, it's a very limiting energy to be in around money. When we remember that money is a renewable resource, when we remember that money is there to fulfill our vision and our purpose, and that it always comes when it comes to fulfill that vision. The vision at the time for us was, we desire to have this RV and do family adventures around the country. And so the financial target, like we consciously made the choice, we are shifting the goal for now. We're actually going to pull money out of this account. At some point, it may feel important to build that back up to where it was before, but it doesn't feel that important right now. There's actually some other things going on that are more important. And so I think it's about knowing, when you're coming at it from that place of alignment and doing the inner work, and you're coming at it from a grounded place, you kind of know, like, this, give me a heart or give me a yes if you do this too and you get this. But like, this is the season we're in right now is one of blank, and you give yourself permission to let it be about, again, whatever it is, sometimes lifestyle, sometimes saving, sometimes giving, sometimes whatever. But you need to, I often don't say you need to do anything. I would encourage you, make your own rules with this and be in conscious communion with your money and making conscious rules around your money as well. And then the fifth tip is to always be learning and growing in this area. If you want to financially expand, thank you so much for the hearts. If you want to financially expand, we got to expand your knowledge base. We've got to expand your level of consciousness. And one of the key decisions I made about a year ago was actually to hire someone specifically as a wealth, and I'd call him a money mentor for me. Because I knew that up until that point in my life, I was like decent. I was pretty good at making money, but I didn't know much about investing, and I didn't know much about how to multiply it, and all the things that honestly, they felt overwhelming at the time. So I hired someone, but the key is it was important to me that he was in alignment with my belief system. I knew that for me, it wasn't going to work with someone who was super restrictive and was like, you got to save. You can't, even though you've got that money in your savings account, it's not yours. Don't touch it, yada, yada. And I was like, that energy, any sort of energy of lack around money is not going to work for me in a mentor, in a team member, in a financial advisor. And so I was very intentional about who I hired and hiring someone who I knew would be aligned. I also was very intentional about the resources that I was paying attention to. So this is, and it's not to say what's right or wrong. Again, I'm all about making your own rules, but just because somebody's a money guru on TV, it does, and I'm literally not referencing any specific person. So whatever name is popping in your head, I'm not referencing anyone specific. But just because somebody's a money guru on TV or they've written a best-selling book about it, it doesn't mean that that's the only way. It doesn't mean that that's the only way for you. So I remember when I was really in my wealth consciousness up level, I would read certain books that were pretty restrictive around money, and it would put me in like panic, and it would put me in judgment of myself. And I decided one day, I was like, I'm not, again, like I am so impressed that you wrote a New York Times bestselling book. This isn't working for me, at least not right now. So I'm not going to be consuming this content. I'm going to look for something. It's not about sticking your head in the sand, but it's about there's multiple approaches. Find something that's in alignment with you, but always be learning and growing in that area. And so I would look at if money feels overwhelming, it will be more challenging to expand it. So what would it look like for you to find a wealth mentor, someone who's farther in the journey than you? And you can read people's books, you can follow them online. Like it doesn't have to be, I invest a chunk every month with this person. It doesn't have to be that, but find someone who you can learn from and grow from, and find resources and grow your knowledge base in that area. So I'll do a quick wrap up. If you have any questions on what I've shared, pop it in the comments. But the 5 things to help you develop your financial plan for expansion are: number 1, you got to be connected to your vision. Money is not the vision, it's the how of the vision. Number 2, look at what is the most enjoyable way for this money to come in. If I could have it any way, what would be the most enjoyable way to create it? Number 3, get creative. Play with somebody else's brain. Like what would be, what would so and so do if they desired to bring in 20,000 by this date, or whatever the amount is, 100,000, whatever, I don't care. What would they do? Number 4, be in communion with your money. Build a relationship with it. Spend time with it every day. If that feels painful because you've been avoiding it, it's just like anything else. You got to just rip off the Band-Aid, see where you're at. Financial avoidance is not sexy. It's not helping anyone. You got to know where you're starting from. And then number 5, always be learning and growing. Find the right resources for you. Find the right mentors for you. Learn, grow, expand your knowledge base. And as you do that, you'll rise to a higher level of consciousness around your money, and you'll have higher level results as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said at the beginning, hi Tang, how are you? Like I said at the beginning, I'm really enjoying expanding the topics in this community too. We're actually going to have some very dialed in, like laser focused, true tactical sales training and coaching coming for you in some upcoming live streams. I've got an amazing podcast coming out for you tomorrow that's very much that. And by the way, subscribe to She Sells Radio if you're not familiar with it, because that is where we have amazing guest interviews. There's more deep dives like this. And, but then I'm also enjoying talking about money, because the two are so interchangeable. And I want you to develop a really healthy relationship around money, and a really healthy relationship and self-worth around that. And from that foundation, you're able to sell more, achieve your goals, etc. So again, those are the resources I would connect you with from here. I would say check out She Sells Radio on your favorite podcast player. If you haven't yet downloaded, I've got an amazing ebook, elisearcher.com/scripts. It's my 5 sales scripts to increase your closing rate 50% or more. Had a client go through it and close 30 grand in a day from using, like, I think it was 2 little tips from there. So it's super powerful. elisearcher.com/scripts. Oh, Lynn, you're saying my friend Holly introduced me to you. Well, I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for your engagement. I love, love, love engagement on these live streams, and I'm so glad to be connected with you. All right, my friends, that is it. Wishing you a phenomenal rest of your Monday, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye for now.